凌晨要跟老师说 hello 吗？
都是刚合所的同学吗？
对，有一些刚合所的同学，有一些刚合所的校友。
OK， 好，等一下哈，我要重新加入。对，因为我现在要从另外一个 screen 看到我自己，我才有办法，不然我觉得我好。Okay, so anyone else wants to introduce themselves? 还有同学们想要让我知道你们是谁吗？有一位冠珍。
Hello， 老师。
冠珍是哪一位？是我认识的冠珍吗？
对对对，
没错。
上次有修课。
Hello. Thank you for tuning in. Okay, so let's get started. The title of today's topic is Unlocking the Harmony, Essential English for Chamber Music Rehearsal. So basically, I will be sharing with you how to effectively conduct a chamber music rehearsal. Another word, how to effectively use the time during the chamber music rehearsal, so everyone understands everybody's conversation. 我会 interchange between 中英文那 basically I would like to conduct this session all in English. If any one of you have a question, please feel free to raise your hand. I think I may be able to see you. So 如果等一下潘老师如果有人想要问问题的话，就是麻烦潘老师就是盯我一下这样子。Okay, so why is effective communication so crucial in chamber music rehearsals? 因为effective communication ensures everyone is on the same page. You don't want to misunderstand each other's saying, and sometimes it also reduces misunderstanding and conflicts. Okay, so that's the reason why it's so important to be able to understand what everyone is saying and everyone's on the same page. Also, chamber music playing is all about collaboration. 它是一个合作，所以 there's no boss， 没有一个人是老板，没有一个人是头每一个人都是非常的 important， 都是非常重要。所以为什么在 chamber music rehearsal 的时候，其实每一个人的 input 都是非常非常的重要And then also enhances overall performance quality， 可以让你们的就是这个 rehearsal 更有效率的去进行，然后也可以就事半功倍的意思好we're just going to go over some of these musical terms. 我相信大家都已经认识，可是我就是很 quickly 就是稍微再跟大家介绍一下 various types of chamber music. There's duo, trio, quartet, quintet, sextet, septet, octet, nonet. Nonet 大家比较可能不常听到，其实 octet 八重奏之后 basically we call it chamber music. Okay, 所以如果比如说是四手联弹 duo, piano trio, there could be string quartet, piano quintet, brass sextet 就 septet. 那我们 even octet 都很难去有时候 octet 因为很多时候这种 chamber music 的 instrumentation 是可以 rotate， 就是有可能有一个作曲家他写给 say 都是 brass， 可是可能有可能是改编给其他的乐器，比如说现在的 chamber music 其实combination 是非常非常多，有可能是声乐加上 strings 加上就是 keyboard 都有可能，所以后来就是都会统称为 chamber music. Okay, so just to review some of the technical terms, melody. These are some of the terms that we'll be using during the conversation following. Melody, harmony, rhythm, tempo, dynamics, pitch, octave, interval, timbre. Timbre 这个字非常非常重要，就是尤其我们在讲音色的时候，我们都讲这个字是比较难念，是 timbre， 它不是 timbre， 大家要稍微注意一下，是 timbre， 它是念成 tamber 的音 timbre。 Okay. Measure 小节 beat, note, legato, staccato, fermata, syncopation, articulation. 另外就是 articulation 这个字，其实在我们中文其实很难去比较难去解释是什么意思。我们常常就是用原文 articulation， 就是你的演奏的语法，就是这个技巧articulation. phrasing, motif, syncopation, ensemble, rehearsal, score, part。我们在讲总谱跟分谱，就是 score and parts。movement, balance, accompaniment, dialogue, intonation, texture, dynamics, modulation, ornamentation, vibrato。那当然vibrato 又可以就是很多 string 的一些 technical terms， 比如说 staccato、vibrato、pizzicato 这些我就没有再多，因为还有 brass 的 terminology， 就是 woodwind 的 terminology， 我就没有全部写在上面。不过就让大家稍微了解一下，说这个是比较常用到的一些 technical terms。Okay, so let's start with verbal cues for dynamics. 我们最常需要去第一个我们 chamber musician get together. The first thing is to understand the score, understanding the parts. So it's so important to indicate clear dynamics. Okay, 所以大小声是非常非常重要的。These are the most common dynamics that we see on the score: piano, pianissimo, mezzo piano, forte, fortissimo, mezzo forte, crescendo, decrescendo, or diminuendo. Decrescendo 我们也可以称之为 diminuendo. Okay. So how do we address? So how do we tell people you need to play piano here, or you need to play pianissimo here? Okay, you don't just say play piano. Okay, so sometimes when you are in a chamber music rehearsal scenario, you need to be polite. 就是大家是一个合作的一个 collaboration， 就是一个合作的一个态度，所以我们要 always remember to say things politely， 就是要有礼貌的。Okay, so you will say play this section very softly, almost a whisper， 就是你会有时候你会去用不同的 description， 不同的这个形容词来形容这个 pianissimo。 Okay, so very softly, almost like a whisper， 就像是在讲悄悄话的意思啊。Use a delicate touch here to achieve pianissimo. So you see， 我在用 pianissimo 的时候，我会用另外一个形容词去形容 pianissimo。第一个我就是用一个 whisper， 第二个我会用一个 delicate touch， 就是很轻的感觉去 describe 这个 pianissimo。Piano, keep the volume at a soft level as indicated by piano. Okay. This phrase should be played gently, maintaining a piano dynamic. 就是 play gentle， 就是要稍微温柔一点点。Medium dynamics, mezzo piano. Slightly louder than piano, but still on the softer side. Aim for a mezzo piano. 就是你在跟你的 partner 讲话的时候，你可能你要怎么去 describe mezzo piano? Okay, so it's a little bit, it's louder than piano, but still on the softer side. Okay. 就是也还不是到 forte 的这个程度。Play this passage with a gentle but clear sound, mezzo piano, mezzo forte. Perform this section. Perform this section with moderate volume at mezzo forte. Aim for a balanced, medium, loud, dynamic here, mezzo forte. 所以我们在讲 dynamics 的时候，我们可以用不同的 description 去 describe 那个 dynamic indication. Okay, loud dynamics, forte. Bring out a strong full sound at forte. So instead of just saying forte, I say bring out a strong full sound. Play this part with energy and power at the forte dynamic, and with energy and power. So this describes the dynamic forte. Fortissimo, go all out. Very loud and powerful fortissimo. So here again, I'm describing fortissimo with very loud and powerful. This section should be bold and commanding fortissimo. Very bold, 就是非常有力度的gradual changes, crescendo, 渐强. Start soft and gradually get louder, following the crescendo marking. Increase the volume steadily, building up the crescendo, decrescendo, or we call it diminuendo 都可以gradually decrease the volume, creating a decrescendo. Decrease the volume. So 我们会用就是用一个 description again 来 describe 这个 decrescendo or diminuendo. Let the sound fade away gently, following the diminuendo. Sudden changes, forzato. Give a sudden, strong accent to this note, forzato. 它是一个很 sudden， 是突然间的Emphasize the note sharply. 就是突然间的一个强音 sforzando subito piano drop to a soft dynamic immediately subito piano change to piano suddenly subito piano. So I'm describing subito piano by suddenly 这个 word 这个字 dynamic coordinations general balance 我现在在就是用一个 scenario 来讲 first violin please play the melody in mezzo forte while the other strings maintain piano for the accompaniment to ensure the melody stands out 所以我在告诉这个 first violin 它必须要把它的 melody 它的这个旋律拉稍微大声一点的在 mezzo forte 的 level 所以其他的弦乐器可以变成是伴奏就比较 soft sound Okay, sectional dynamics, crescendo and decrescendo. Cello start a gradual crescendo at measure 12, going from piano to forte by measure 16. So I'm describing 这个 crescendo 要怎么做，要从12小节到16小节，从 piano to forte. Violins follow the same dynamic shape, but start your crescendo one measure later. 所以我们在 chamber music rehearsal 的时候，我们在 describe 这个 dynamic changes 的时候，就是要很 specific， 就是一定要你要告诉人家，比如说从哪里开始，从到哪里结束，这个是非常非常重要，而不是就是一个 general。等一下会给大家一些 example 哦。Specific phrases, sudden changes. At measure 32, the entire ensemble needs to switch to fortissimo abruptly, 突然间到 fortissimo on the downbeat to emphasize the dramatic shift. Okay, 所以它 abruptly 就是突然间的意思，所以我需要一个突然间的 fortissimo. Layered dynamics, layered balance. In measure 24 to 28, the piano should maintain mezzo piano while the violin plays mezzo forte to create a subtle dynamic contrast between the parts. 所以这个是有一点两个 layer 的 ，OK， 一个 layer 是 play mezzo piano， 另外一个 layer 是 play mezzo forte， 然后它会有一个 contrast， 有一个对比啊。Solo versus accompaniment, solo dynamics. Clarinet, bring your dynamic down to pianissimo while the flute takes over the solo in measure 40, ensuring the flute's melody is clearly heard. Okay, so again, we are differentiating solo versus accompaniment. Solo should play a little bit louder, and so and then the accompaniment can play softer, so the solo part can bring out its melody. Expressive playing, viola. Follow the crescendo and decrescendo marking precisely in measure 18 to 22, shaping the phrase with a clear dynamic contour. 所以它其实我这个地方就是 in between measure 18 to 22, I need to make a hairpin changes, okay, from crescendo and then decrescendo. So this is describing changes in dynamic, both crescendo and decrescendo. Dynamic coordination. Everyone should reach a synchronized fortissimo on the downbeat of measure 45 and then quickly drop to piano by measure 46 to highlight the contrast. 所以这个地方 I'm describing from fortissimo to piano. So there's a huge contrast from measure 45 to 46. There's a huge change there. So this is how one should describe the dynamic coordination. Articulation and dynamics. Second violin, play the staccato note in measure 14 at mezzo forte, while the rest of the group plays legato lines at piano, creating a textual and dynamic contrast. So I'm asking the players to do a legato versus staccato. So it's a different textual line. Echo dynamics, okay. In measure 10 to 12, cello, please start the phrase in mezzo forte. Violin, when you echo the same phrase in measure 13 to 15, play it in piano to create an echo effect. Okay, so this is I'm asking the violin to create an echo effect to the cello, following the cello's phrase. Emphasizing accents. At measure 20, everyone accent the first beat strongly with a sforzando, and then immediately drop back to mezzo forte for a subsequent note. Repeated sections. In the repeated of the A section, play it softer, moving it from forte to mezzo forte to differentiate from the first time through. So here, I'm actually just describing how you should how you should coordinate with your partners when doing the chamber music rehearsal. Basically, you are describing the dynamic changes in depth. So you're not just saying, oh, play softer here, play louder there at major 12 or major 13. Instead, you should do a descriptive sentence, making sure that everyone is on the same page and everyone understands what you're saying. Okay, so I'm going to give you several examples in various chamber music rehearsal. Let's start with the duo rehearsal dialogue. So here it could be a four-hand piano or a rehearsal between the violinist and the pianist. So I'm going to be playing double roles here. So Ava says, hey, James, ready to start our rehearsal? Absolutely, Ava. Let's dive right in. How about we begin with the first movement of the Schubert Sonata? Sounds good. Let's go from the top. So they begin playing, focusing on synchronizing their playing and interpreting the music together. So here we have two people, James and Ava. Ava, I think we should emphasize the melody more in this section. You're right. Let's bring out the melody by playing it with a slightly stronger touch. And maybe we can play the accompaniment a bit softer to balance it out. So they adjust their dynamics and continue playing. James, in measure 24, could we try shaping the phrase with a more gradual crescendo? So here you see how Ava and James, they're two partners, but when they are communicating, they're actually they sound very polite. Okay, first of all, they sound very polite, and they're very specific. For example, here, Ava tells James, in measure 24, could we try shaping the phrase with a more gradual crescendo? She wants a more slowly, steadily crescendo rather than a abrupt crescendo. James says, sure, let's build up the intensity slowly to create a more dramatic effect. They rehearse this passage, paying attention to the dynamics and shaping of the phrase. And James says, Ava, do you think we need to clarify the articulation in measure 36? So again, James stresses the importance of articulation again and again and again. In chamber music rehearsals, 100% of the time, you will be addressing the articulation for sure. Okay, articulation is so important, not only in piano, in string music, in strings, in brass, in winds, and every single instrument, articulation. So articulation in between various parts, various instruments is basically the most important element in chamber music playing. So articulation, you need to match the articulation in between two instruments. Okay, either it's two string instruments, violin and viola, or viola and cello, or in between piano and string instrument as well. Ava says, good point. Let's make sure that a staccato note are crisp and clear. So it could be that both Ava and James, they both have staccato. And how do they address the way how they play staccato? So that's called articulation. Okay, so they want to make sure that the staccato are crisp and clear. And they focus on articulating the staccato note with precision. Okay, 就是非常非常，他们就是把这个整个这个 attention 就是放在这个 articulation 的这个去诠释这个 staccato 的 articulation. So continue. James, I feel like we're rushing a bit in the transition to second theme at measure 48. Can we try slowing down slightly? 所以他觉得他们越拉越快，或是越弹越快。Okay, so they're rushing a bit. James says, yeah, let's take a moment to breathe and set up the new theme. 呼吸非常非常的重要。Let's take a moment to breathe. They rehearse the transition, finding a more relaxed tempo. 就是所以他们就是花一些时间在练那个 passage 啊。James says, Ava, should we experiment with a different pedaling in the lyrical section at measure 72? 所以他希望他要 James， 他要 Ava， 这个是在 on the piano， 他希望他可以用不同的踏板的方式去让这个 melodic line 可以更 lyrical 一点，更唱，就可以多唱一点点啊。 definitely, let's see if we can achieve a more seamless legato by adjusting the pedaling. So they're trying different pedaling for this passage to make it more seamless legato. 就是那个线条 legato 的线条更美。So they try different pedaling techniques to enhance the legato line. Eva says, James, I think we need to pay attention to the balance between our parts in the climax and measure 22. So again, they're paying attention to the balance. So in between two people, there must be one part that needs to bring out a bit more than the other. So it's called balance. So balancing the music is also very important in addition to articulation. James says, agreed. Let's make sure neither part overpower the other. Okay, so first of all, they need to make sure who has the important part and who has the melodic line, and the other part will automatically drop down to accompaniment or drop down a dynamic level. Okay, they listen to their balance. So listening is also very important. So they listen to their balance and adjust their playing accordingly. James says, all right, let's run through the entire movement one more time and see how it feels. Sounds good. Let's focus on bringing out the musicality and expression. Musicality and expression 就是要怎么样把这个音乐性跟这个整个感情再呈现更好一点。They play through the movement, incorporating their adjustments and focusing on musical expression. Eva says, great job, James. I think we're really starting to capture the essence of the piece. James says, absolutely, Eva. I'm feeling good about our progress. So as you can see, this is maybe like a 5-minute conversation between the two players. But as you can see, when they talk to each other, they're not, first of all, being polite is very important in chamber music rehearsal. And also address specifically how you want the changes and how you want to work on the articulation, working on the pedaling, working on the legato, working on the phrasing. Okay, so it's all very specific. So this is a good way to communicate with your partners when rehearsing. So be specific and be collaborative and be polite. Okay. So they pack up their music, feeling satisfied with the rehearsal. So that's the end of the rehearsal. Okay, so let's get on to communicating musical ideas, use of precise language and specific musical terms. 怎么样精确的使用语言跟音乐的术语来传达音乐的理念啊。So using precise language and specific musical terms is very, very important. So I'm going to give you a few examples of how to address each term, each technical terms. Articulation 刚刚讲过了 ，articulation 就是其实在每一次的 rehearsal 里面，其实最难去找到共通点，或者不是最难去，就是最难去 achieve 的一点就是 articulation， 因为每一个人的 articulation， 每一个人对 staccato 的诠释，对 legato 的诠释，对不同乐曲的 phrasing 的诠释，其实都不太一样。所以 how do you achieve the same articulation is very important. So 如果是一般的 general comment， 你可能讲说 the beginning of the phrase is not clear， OK， 就是这个一开始的这个 phrasing 不清楚 ，OK。那如果是 precise， 如果是更精确的语言的话，你就可以讲说 in measure 12, let's use a sharper staccato on the 8th note to make the articulation crispier. To make the articulation crisper. 所以在这个地方，你有讲出这个地方第12小节的 staccato on the 8th note 8分音符，然后要把这个8分音符的 staccato 要再更清脆一点点。好，所以跟第一句话我们讲 the beginning of the phrase is not clear， 这个当你听到这句话的时候，你可能会说 What? Where? How? OK， 所以 being very specific is also very important in addressing all the technical issues. So dynamics， 如果是一般的 general comment， 你可能会讲说 This part should be louder. OK, and then but if it's a good rehearsal, musician will probably say start at measure 45. Let's crescendo from piano to forte over the next 4 measures. So, and then ensuring a gradual and smooth increase in volume. So here you are addressing the duration from measure 45 over the next, so from 45 to 49. Okay, so you're also addressing the duration for 4 measures, and you're addressing the dynamic change should go from piano to forte. Okay, so here it's very clear that you're not just saying this part is not loud enough or this part is not softly enough. Phrasing, okay. So if it's a general comment, you will say it'll sound like this phrasing needs more shape. Okay, this is what I hear all the time. 就是说，你这个乐句，拉的不够好，弹的不够好。可是怎么样的不够好？你如果没有讲出来的话，就是 it's not specific， 它不够精确。Okay, so you could say, in this second theme and measure 30, let's shape the phrase by making a slight diminuendo on the last two beats of each measure to give it more lyrical quality. So in you're seeing 虽然这句话可能听起来非常的 lengthy， 听起来非常的长，可是你把所有的 specific 其实都放进去，你要在第30小节，你要做一点点的 diminuendo， 做一点渐弱，然后在最后2拍的地方，所以你才有办法达到我们想要的这个 phrasing， 这个乐句的整个感觉哦。Tempo。We're not together in this section. This is what I hear all the time. Okay, so 我们在练这个 chamber rehearsal 的时候，我们常常会就是如果多于3个人，就会 it starts to be a little more confusing or a little more challenging to make sure everyone is on the same page or on the same beat. So a general comment will sound like "We're not together." A precise language will say, "In the allegro section, let's slow down to a tempo of quarter now equals to 120 and use the metronome to ensure we're perfectly in sync." So another key element in chamber music rehearsal is using metronome. Okay, so metronome is so important in chamber music rehearsals, especially when dealing with a technically challenging phrase or piece or movement. So everyone on the same, even though there may be rubato or tempo changes, but having to practice with metronome is also very, very important. So here, in order to achieve the tempo goal, the musicians are setting the metronome tempo to a quarter note equals to 120. So everyone will be on the same beat. Okay. Balance is also very, very difficult in chamber music playing. The melody isn't standing out enough. 听不到这个旋律. Okay, so balance is not right. Piano is too loud or cello is too soft or whatever. Okay, so the precise language will sound like violin and in measure 50 play mezzo forte while the cello and piano play piano to ensure the melody is prominent. 所以这个地方 melody line 是在 violin， 所以这个 violin and measure 在第50小节的地方 melody 需要让 violin 要 bring out， 所以其他2个乐器 cello 跟 piano 就是可以 play softly. Okay, rhythm. The rhythm is not accurate. Okay, 这个节奏有时候也是一个 technical challenge. Precise language will sound like in measure 16, let's subdivide. Subdivide is very important. 所以 subdivide 就是把一拍变成是 1 and 2 and 就是让它就是让它节奏切开来，就是4分音符变成8分音符，然后8分音符可能就是变16分音符这样子，用这样子方式去 rehearse. In measure 16, let's subdivide the 16th note to ensure the syncopation is precise, particularly on the second beat. Okay, so here, in order to achieve the rhythmical challenge, the musicians are subdividing the phrase or the notes in order to achieve the rhythm equality. Okay, intonation is also very important except for piano, but intonation is so important for string instruments. The tuning is off. This is what I hear all the time. The tuning is off. Your A is 9 too. Precise language will be in the chord at measure 25. Can the viola adjust the pitch slightly higher on the C sharp to better match the rest of the ensemble? So here, I'm specifically addressing the violist to adjust the pitch a little bit higher on the C sharp. So the C sharp may be out of tune a little bit. Okay. Tone quality. The general comment may be your sound is too harsh. 你听起来太刺耳了. Okay. Precise language would be in the andante section. Let's aim for a warmer tone by using more bow on the string and applying less pressure, especially in the upper register. Okay. So basically, you are giving suggestions about how to make a better tone quality. Okay, so using more bow to ensure, and then less pressure to ensure the tone quality is better. Okay. All right. Oops. A second. Oh. Technical execution. The passage is not clean. Okay, so instead we could say in measure 34 to 38, let's practice the passage slowly at half tempo, focusing on clean finger transition and accurate bowing pattern. So here, passage is not clean， 就是有时候可能就是这个rhythmical， 就是节奏比较复杂的时候，我们要怎么去 achieve 这个 problem， 我们就可以让这个 tempo 稍微慢一点点，然后 focusing on the finger transition， OK， 然后还有 accurate bowing pattern， 就是可能这个弓的运法可能是上半弓、下半弓，或是弓的速度哦，所以这个是accurate bowing pattern。Entrances and exit, OK. We are not starting together. This is what I hear all the time. Well, we're not ending together. We're not starting together. Precise language would be in measure 10, let's have the first violin give a clear upbeat cue to ensure everyone enters precisely on the downbeat. Cue 就是那个，就是给一个 cue 啊，就是给一个指示。那很多时候在我们在 chamber music playing 的时候 I always tell my students 我通常都会讲说 first violin is not, it should be everyone giving cue, not just the first violin or not just the pianist, not just the cellist. Everyone should be breathing and giving the cue together. 这个才是所谓的 chamber music 的这个，我觉得这个是 chamber music 很重要，就是每一个人就要一起呼吸，一起给 cue。所以 basically heartbeat is beating together. Okay, so let's have the first violin give a clear upbeat cue to ensure everyone. 所以这个是在让某一个人可以给一个很重要的这个 body 这个 language 哦，这等一下我们会讲到怎么用 body language。好。So let's give a scenario in piano trio rehearsal. 所以现在有3个人的 dialogue. The scene opens in a cozy rehearsal studio with Anna, David, and Emma seated with their instruments, violin, cello, and piano. So it's a piano trio rehearsal. They are preparing to rehearse a piece of chamber music. Anna says, all right, let's start from the top. Emma, would you set the tempo for us? Okay, so Anna very politely gives the chair to Emma to set the tempo. Sure. Emma plays a few bars on the piano. Emma is the pianist to establish the tempo. How's this? David says, that feels good to me, adjusting his cello. He's a cellist. Agree. Okay, let's dive in. David, could you bring out the melody a bit more in the second section? Okay, so Anna wants David to play out more in the cello. Okay, David says, got it. I'll emphasize the phrasing there. And Anna, in the transition to Allegro, let's make sure the dynamics really pop. 就是 means dynamic really pop， 就是这个 dynamic 就是这个大小声要再明显一点点 ，really pop 就是明显一点。Okay, absolutely, I will make it more expressive. 再更多的表情啊。They start playing, the music flowing through the room as they concentrate on each note and phrase. David says, Emma, could we try a different approach to the crescendo in bar 36? So do you see David, the cellist, he's asking Emma to do the crescendo differently. Okay, I'm not sure how different. So here, 我们可以讲 bar 36 or measure 36都可以，就第36小节。 Emma says, sure. How about I build it more gradually? 我再稍微慢一点点的做这个 crescendo. That sounds great. Let's experiment with that. Okay. They play section again, experimenting with the dynamics and expression. Okay. So they're trying different ways of crescendo. It could be, it could be a span of 4 beats. It could be a span of 3 beats. Okay. So in measure 36. David says, Anna, can we work on our intonation in the pizzicato section? Of course, let's focus on tuning those intervals. 所以 violin 跟 cello 他们都有 pizzicato 都有拨弦哦。Emma says, I'll listen closely and adjust accordingly. They spend some time refining the pizzicato section, carefully tuning each note. David says, I think that's sounding much better now. Agreed. Let's move on to the final section, Emma. Could you give us a cue before the tempo change? So Anna is asking Emma to give a cue. 她希望她给一个指令，就是开始的指令。Sure thing. I'll give a clear signal with my left hand. All right, they rehearse the final section, paying attention to the tempo change and nuances of the music. Anna says, that felt good. I think we're ready to run through the entire piece again. Agree. Let's give it one more go. They start from the beginning, playing with newfound confidence and cohesion. Okay. Emma says, that was excellent, everyone. I think we're ready, starting to capture the essence of the piece. Anna says, definitely, it's amazing how much progress we've made in just one rehearsal. David says, absolutely. I can't wait to see where we'll be by the performance. They share smiles of satisfaction, feeling energized by their productive rehearsal. So this is a very polite rehearsal, giving each other suggestions, and they're trying different things, and they're all satisfied at the end. Okay, of course, this is the best scenario, but I've also seen rehearsals where people start fighting or having disagreement or can't come to a conclusion. So that is very, very common. 就是很多时候，如果大家有这个先入为主，就是我觉得你要听我的，或者说这个我觉得我讲的对，或是我觉得你讲的不对，就是在 chamber music rehearsals 的时候 ，respectful is very important， 就是要怎么样去互相尊重，我觉得是非常重要的。还有就是我们刚刚在看这个 duo 跟 piano trio 这个 conversation 里面，可以看到就是说他们在给这个 indication 给这个instruction 的时候，其实都非常非常的 specific， 就是说比如说你要从哪里开始哪里结束，要在几个小节，你要怎么去做啊？所以这个就是 chamber music rehearsal 的时候，就是很重要，就是你要怎么去尊重对方，而且你要给对方就是一个比较很有效率的一个练习的方式，就是要给准确又精确，然后又当然不是某一个人讲的一定正确， there must be 也可能会有 discussion， 也可能会有讨论，会有 disagreement， 然后 trying different things， but then at the end how you come to a conclusion is the most important thing， 就是你们这几个人这几个 partner 一定要 come to a conclusion， 不能说first violin 他还是觉得说 viola 讲的不对，可是 viola 讲的我讲的就是对，就说你们要怎么样 come to a conclusion， 这个也是我经常有经验，就是我们在rehearse chamber music 的时候，有时候可能今天感觉跟明天的感觉就不一样，所以或者是说今天在这个 rehearsal 的 space 跟明天在 concert hall 的这感觉又不一样，因为你在每一个空间可能感觉听到的声音，或是感受到的这个力度，或是 tempo 或者 articulation， 其实都应该是 changes with the venue， 就是跟你的地点都会有关联好。Giving clear instructions, importance of giving clear and concise construction， 就是我刚刚有提到，就是说你要怎么样让你的 partners understand what you're saying and understand exactly what you want. So it has to be very specific and avoid ambiguous， 就是要避免比较模糊的语言Rhythm and tempo, unclear instructions。我现在先给一个不好的 example， 然后再给一个好的 example。我们在讲到 rhythm 跟 tempo 是 unclear instruction， play faster here， OK， play faster here。可是 clear instruction 就会变成是 increase the tempo from 80 to 100 beat per minute starting at measure 16. So here you're not just saying playing faster, but how fast? From 80 to 100 beat per minute. And then starting at measure 16. You're giving instruction by giving the place, which just starts on measure 16, and how fast from 80 to 100. Okay, dynamics on clear instruction. Play this part louder. And then clear instruction would be begin crescendo at measure 32, starting from mezzo forte and reaching fortissimo by measure 40. So basically you have A majors to go from mezzo forte to fortissimo. Okay, so not just saying play louder here or play softer there, but be very specific. Articulation. On clear instruction, play these notes more detached. 再分开一点点. Okay, but clear instruction would be use staccato articulation for the 8th note in measure 5 through 8. So you're giving instruction by saying the staccato articulation on the 8th note should be more detached. Okay. Pitch and harmony. This chord sounds off. Okay, this is 音不准. Okay, intonation is off. In measure 24, ensure the second violin plays a C sharp instead of a C natural to correct the harmony. Okay, so you're giving specific notes that's off, specific note that's out of tune. Timbre, 音色. Make the violin sound warmer. Okay, how do you make this violin sound warmer? Use more bow pressure and play closer to the fingerboard, so tasto, for a warmer tone in measure 10 to 14. So you're not just giving an instruction to the violinist to play the sound warmer, but you're saying give more pressure and play closer to the fingerboard. Okay. Form and structure on clear instruction. Repeat the section. Repeat the A section from measure 1 to 16 before moving on to the B section. Okay, so you're giving instruction on where to repeat. Wait for my PowerPoint. Okay. Melody on clear instruction would be bring out the melody. Okay. Clarinet, play the melody at measure 22 with a slightly louder dynamic around mezzo forte while the accompaniment remains at piano. So you're giving instruction to the clarinet to play out the melodic line, okay? And then the accompaniment should remain at piano. Texture, 音色，对，或是这个整个感就是整个乐句的感受。This part is too thick，它感觉太浓了In measure 12 to 20, reduce the number of voices playing the harmony, keeping only the first and second violin for a lighter texture. 就是要把这个 texture 要 reduce， 就是 only the first and second violin play. Style and expression. Play this section more expressively. OK， 这个也很难，就是多一点感情，你要怎么样 play 会多一点感情。In measure 8 to 12, use rubato to emphasize the phrasing. Slow down slightly on the second beat of each measure. So you're giving instruction by using rubato to play it more expressively. Okay, and also slow down. Okay, so let's go on to a string quartet rehearsal. Now we have 4 people. So the more people you involve, the more confusing it becomes because there's more voices and there's more disagreements. So let's start. Sophia is the first violinist. All right, everyone, let's get started. Could we try playing from the development section? 我们从那个发展部开始啦。Ethan, the second violinist. Sounds good. Let's take it from bar 65. Mia is the violist. Before we start, could we talk about the bowing in this section? Okay, so again, it's almost always crucial in the string quartet rehearsal to match the bowing. Okay, matching the bowing is very important in string quartet playing because you want to ensure that everyone is using in the same direction. Also, it looks better from the audience that everyone is going the same direction. Mike, the cellist. Yeah, I think we need to decide whether to use separate or slur bows. 这个地方是要用分弓还是要用连弓啊？Sophia says, agree. Let's experiment with both and see what works best for the sound we want. See here, Sophia 是非常非常民主，她没有说let's use slur， 她也没有说 let's use separate bow， 她说 let's experiment with both， 就是我们两个都试看看，然后看哪一个是有我们想要的声音啊，所以这个 again 非常民主的一个排练过程。They start playing, focusing on the bowing technique and dynamics. So 他们把这个时间专注在这个 bowing technique 跟这个大小声啊。Ethan says, Mia, can you try playing your part with a bit more vibrato in measure 72? 可不可以抖音多一点点在第72小节？ Sure, I'll add more vibrato to bring out the emotion in that phrase. Sophia says, oh, that should be Mike. Mike, could you match my dynamic in crescendo leading up to the climax? Got it. I'll make sure to follow your lead. They continue playing, paying close attention to dynamics and articulation. Okay. Ethan, I think we could bring out the inner voice more in this section. Can we adjust our balance? Okay, so here they're working on their balance. So there are 4 instruments and each one of them has to know who has the important part, who has the melodic line, who has the accompaniment part. So that's the balance issue. Okay, Ethan says, absolutely. Let's try playing with a lighter touch to let the inner voices shine through. 他们希望这个 inner voice, it could be the second violin, it could be the viola, 就是这个inner voice 就是中间的那个声部需要再多一点点声音 to shine through. Sophia says, that sounds better. Let's keep working on finding the right balance between our parts. They rehearse the section again, focusing on balance and blending their sound. Mike says, hey, I have a question about the tempo change in measure 90. Should we slow down more gradually? 他说这个第90小节是不是要再渐慢的更多一点点 Okay. Sophia says, that's a good point. Let's try easing into the tempo change to make it smoother. They experiment with different tempo changes, finding the one that best fits the musical